You are tuned in to the Coach V Show, bringing you the expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we become the best we can be. Now here's your host, Coach Viliami Tuivai, Coach V.
Welcome to the Coach V Show. It is Mana Motivation Monday, February 10th, 2020. The Coach V Show is your radio show for personal and professional development, with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we become the best we can be. Where iron sharpens iron, together we rise on Island Block Radio, the pulse of the Pacific, where paradise lives. I'm your host, Coach V. Viliami Tuivai, and the Coach V Show focuses on bringing you powerful and transformational content, knowledge, and proven tactics to help you, me, and we improve on our self-confidence, develop our potential and talent, increase our value in business opportunities, and the realization of our dreams and aspirations. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight I'm talking about love, and in fact this entire month I'll be talking about love, which love is defined as an intense feeling of deep affection, a great interest and pleasure in something. In love, let's talk Valentine's Day and the history of Valentines. Per my research on history.com, Valentine's Day occurs every February 14th. Across these United States of America and other places around the world, candy, flowers, and gifts are exchanged between two loved ones, all in the name of Saint Valentine. But who is this mysterious saint? And where did these traditions come from? Find out how the history of Valentine's Day is what we're going to be talking about, from the ancient Roman ritual of Lupercalia that welcomed spring to the card-giving customs of Victorian England. The history of Valentine's Day and the story of this patron saint is shrouded in mystery. We do know that February has long been celebrated as a month of romance, and that St. Valentine's Day, as we know it today, contains vestiges of both Christian and ancient Roman tradition. But who was St. Valentine? And how did he come and become associated with this ancient rite? The Catholic Church recognizes at least three different saints named Valentine or Valentinus, all of whom are martyred. One legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome. When Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families, he outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Still, others insist that it was St. Valentine's of Terni, a bishop who was true to the namesake of the holiday. He, too, was beheaded by Claudius II outside Rome. Other stories suggest that Valentine may have been killed for attempting to help Christians escape harsh Rome prisons, where they were often beaten and tortured. According to one legend, an imprisoned Valentine actually sent the first Valentine greeting himself. He fell in love with a young girl, possibly his jailer's daughter, who visited him during his confinement. Before his death, it is alleged that he wrote her a letter signed "From Your Valentine," an expression that is still used today. Although the truth behind Valentine legends is murky, the stories all emphasize this appeal as a sympathetic, heroic, and most importantly, romantic figure. By the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to this reputation, Valentine would become one of the most popular saints in England and France. While some believe that Valentine's Day is celebrated in the middle of February to commemorate the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270, others claim that the Christian church that may have decided to place St. Valentine's Day feast in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration, sounds like the Christian church, of Lupercalia. Celebrated at the ideas of February or February 15th, Lupercalia was a fertility festival dedicated to the Faunus, the Roman god of agriculture, as well as the Roman founders Romulus and Remus. To begin the festival, the members of Luperci, an order of the Roman priests, would gather at a sacred cave where the infants Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were believed to have been cared for by a she-wolf or lupa. The priests would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. They would then strip the goat's hide into strips, dip them in the sacrificial blood, and take to the streets, gently slapping both men and women of the fields with the goat hide. Far from being fearful, Roman women welcomed the touch of the hides because it was believed to make them more fertile in the coming year. Later in the day, according to the legend, all the young women in the city would place their names in a big urn. The city's bachelors would each choose a name and become paired for the year with this chosen woman. These matches then and often led to marriage. Lupercalia survived the initial rise of Christianity but was outlawed as it was deemed unchristian. At the end of the 5th century, we're talking about Valentine's, when Pope Gallius declared February 14th St. Valentine's Day. It was not until much later, however, that the day became definitely associated with love. During the Middle Ages, it was commonly believed in France and England that February 14th was the beginning of birds' mating season, which added to the idea that the middle of Valentine's Day should be a day of romance. The English poet Geoffrey Chaucer was the first to record St. Valentine's Day as a day of romantic celebration in his 1375 poem Parliament of Fowls, writing, "For this was sent on St. Valentine's Day, when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate." So Valentine's greetings were popular as far back as the Middle Ages, though written Valentines didn't begin to appear until after the 1400s. The oldest known Valentine still in existence today was a poem written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans, to his wife while he was imprisoned at the Tower of London following his capture at the Battle of Agincourt. Several years later, it is believed that King Henry V hired a writer named John Lydgate to compose a Valentine's note to Catherine of Valois. In addition to the United States, Valentine's Day is celebrated in Canada, Mexico, and the United Kingdom, France, and Australia. In Great Britain, Valentine's Day began to be popular, celebrated around 17th century. By the middle of the 18th, it was common for friends and lovers of all social classes to exchange small tokens of affection or handwritten notes, and by the 1900s, printed cards began to replace written letters due to the improvements of printing technology. Ready-made cards were an easy way for people to express their emotions in a time when a direct expression of one's feelings was discouraged. Cheaper postage rates also contributed to an increase in the popularity of sending Valentine's Day greetings. So here in the US of A, America probably began exchanging these handmade Valentines in early 1700s. In the 1840s, Esther A. Howland began selling the first mass-produced Valentines in America. Howland, known as the mother of Valentine, made elaborate creations with real lace, ribbons, and colorful pictures known as scrap. Today, according to the Greeting Cards Association, an estimated 145 million, let me say that again, 145 million Valentine's Day cards are sent each year, making Valentine's Day the second largest card sending holiday of the year. Number one being Christmas. Women are said to purchase approximately 85% of those Valentines. That means only 15% of us fellas are sending this. We're talking about love. We're talking about Valentine's Day. Did you know that history? I know I didn't. I just did this because that's what we did since we were kids. In elementary school, buying Valentines, giving away these candy hearts that had little messages on them. And then it is a day that I already have reservations. I made reservations since the middle of January that this Valentine's Day, I and my loving wife and I, a loving husband, I'm already set for our Valentine's Day dinner. We already have a sitter. And we take this time to focus and make sure that we show affection and attention. For that's what love is. Love is defined as an intense feeling of deep affection, a great interest and pleasure in something, and that's why we are talking Valentines. More on love, more on Valentines, and talking passion, romance, marriage, all coming up on your personal professional development radio station, the Coach V Show on Island Block Radio, the pulse of the Pacific, where paradise lives. Don't leave. Don't change that station, because your boy Coach V is going to be right back. You can call me Coach Valentines this love month. We'll be moving on. More good stuff on love coming back right after this brief music break.
Now this is the original track of the girl them back alongside J-Boom. And now we make the girl them cry tears of joy. Hear this.
From the Damien army, can't get along, but something about love and make we can't get enough. Chipping off me from a minute in the Arizona. Just to tell me one thing, that she want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. That she want it full time, want it full time in her life.
Good, good.
She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. That she want it full time, want it full time in her life.
Good.
Best mates when she wake up hungry and she start to fight cause she feeling cranky children. Anything she could pick up at me till I say, boy, me have to tell her, cool down, baby, don't mash up the vibes. And then she tell me, come now, let it flow now. This thing she wanted every night. Said she wanted good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she wanted full time, wanted full time in her life.
Good.
She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she wanted full time, wanted full time in her life.
Track of the girl them maca. Give all the love, I know she can't say bye-bye. Now every day she wants to try her for the good cry. She come for your regular supply and tell me I can tell her to get by. You have to give her loving cause she tell me say she need it. Call from work and say she still a feel it. Love how me do it and me have to go repeat it. She have to tell the world I love you, couldn't be no
secret. She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life.
Good.
She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life. Oh gosh, how we fight so much, we wonder how we have this chemistry. When the wood touch the fire, she wants some more, you see. Me say she can't get enough of this, you see. Well, I'm fine.
Chaka me got the remedy. She said she love all the energy. One touch and she melt like ice in me and then yo. Run things, hear that?
Said she want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life.
Good.
She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life. Oh gosh.
Give her the love, I know she can't say bye-bye. Now every day she want to try her for the good cry. She come for your regular supply and tell me I it help her forget by 24/7, 48/4. Want it anytime, good love in store. No for dance and green on the seashore. Want the good cry, make we explore.
Said she want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life.
Good.
She want the good cry, the good cry. Cry will make she feel nice. Said she want it full time, want it full time in her life. Oh gosh.
Look you and the Empress herself. comes from Micronesia. Traveled the world and I've seen many sights. 10,000 suns will never brighten my day in the morning quite like you do. Micronesia. I think it's time that they recognize the heart and soul of our island life is still glowing, shining through you. Micronesia. I've seen many beautiful sights that don't compare to you. You make everything seem alright, and all I wanna be is with you. The Western Pacific you'll stay, a Micronesian woman. All that's really left to say, I dedicate this song to my queen from Micronesia. Micronesia. Marshall Islands, Palau, and yep, can't forget about you. Micronesia. I dedicate this song to my queen from Micronesia. Micronesia. Kiribati from the Peguahan to the Mariana. Micronesia. Some don't look for the beauty within, that's the loss. I'll take that with no more worries. You just stay you. Micronesia. An island queen needs an island king. Your royalty, and that's why I sing. Don't forget it. Be proud, stay true. Micronesia. I see many beautiful sights that don't compare to you. You make everything seem alright. All I wanna be is with you. The Western Pacific you'll find a Micronesian woman, and I'm glad to call her mine. I dedicate this song to my queen from Micronesia. Micronesia. Marshall Islands, Palau, and yep, can't forget about you. Micronesia. I dedicate this song to my queen from Micronesia. Micronesia. Kiribati from the Peguahan to the Mariana.
Coach V Show.
Welcome back to the Coach V Show, your personal and professional development radio show, right here on Island Block Radio, powered by Dash from Hollywood, California. And tonight we are talking about love. And here on this segment, as we talk and focus on this thing that is love, that is Valentine's, what is the difference between love and lust? Per my study and research that comes from aconsciousrethink.com. Really, when it comes to our friends, we can normally tell a mile off whether what they're feeling for someone is lust or love. When it comes to ourselves, however, we're never able to see things quite as clearly. We can't see the woods for the trees. The saying goes that love is blind, but this rings true for lust too. We're blind to any defects in the object of our affections, but when we're high on lust, we can also be blind to signs that what we're feeling might not actually be the real deal. Love is a deep feeling of affection that you have for another person. It's a lasting attraction that goes beyond the surface and turns into emotional attachment. Lust, on the other hand, is basically a physical attraction that leads to an overwhelming feeling of sexual desire thanks to a rush of hormones. While lust can grow and morph into love, and some people call it the first stage of love, that's not always the case. If you've got butterflies doing laps around your stomach and you're not sure if what's stirring them up is really love or just sexual chemistry with no real substance to it, although there's no guarantee that it won't develop in time, here are the key things that set love apart from lust. Number one, you want to spend all night talking. Two people deeply in lust can easily stay up all night enjoying themselves in each other's company, but it won't be stimulating conversation keeping them awake. Two people in love, however, are just as interested in each other's minds as they are each other's bodies. They can easily lose track of time when doing nothing more than talking to one another. They're never stuck for a topic conversation, and even if they don't agree on everything, they're intrigued by each other's minds. That is number one. Like, remember that back when we were in high school? No, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. I even did that in college with my college girlfriend, who is now my wife. And we joke about that now and then. And we would just say that on the phone. And we just talk for hours. But that is number one. I mean, you want to spend just all night talking. We're talking about the difference between love and lust. And here at number two, you want to cuddle and have breakfast the next day. Whilst you can and probably will feel a huge amount of that S word desire for someone you're in love with, you'll also be just as keen to stay with them after you've had that interaction and that sex to cuddle and chat. You might have to rush off to work the next morning, but what you really want is to have a leisurely breakfast and be in the company of that person. That is the difference between lust and love. Because lust, when you're done, you're out. No cuddling, no hanging around, no sitting around buying breakfast, hanging out for breakfast, making breakfast. Oh, heck no. We out. But that's not what love does. It doesn't rush off. And he wants to be in the company of. Number three, you can't stop thinking about them. We're talking about Valentines. We're talking about love here on your radio show for personal and professional development, the Coach V Show on Island Block Radio. Number three here is you can't stop thinking about them. We're talking about love versus lust. It's true that lust can do this to us too. If you're in lust, however, you may well spend all your time thinking about them, but you're daydreaming all about the physical aspects of the relationships or their physical features. Those in love won't be able to get the other person off their mind either, but they're more likely to be caught daydreaming about something witty, the object of their affection said, and marveling over their mind or the things that they have in common. That's not to say that their thoughts will be entirely pure and they won't get flashbacks to the physical side of things too, but they won't. It's just not the main focus. Number four, you want to meet those important to them. That's the difference between love and lust. And we're just going over that for your consideration. Do you know the difference? I mean, grown adults don't know the difference. And maybe this is just something to put in the forefront of your mind. Do you really love that person? And because, single is such struggle, let me just tell you something. Love got some struggle too on the married side. But much as you'll be interested in seeing the object of your lust, you won't have as much as an interest in meeting their network or family or friends. You just won't. Not when it's lust and it's only physical. Love, however, means you want to get to know all the sides of someone, all of the people. Because, man, you want to see what's going to come out in a person. Check out their family and who they're around because, man, the programming they have gotten from being around those people will be undeniable if you want to stay in love with that person or not. You can tell an awful lot about someone by the people they surround themselves with. It's just some real talk. And those they count amongst what they call their good friends, right? You can tell by who they roll with. If things get serious, their family are likely to become a big part of your life. If what you're feeling is love, you want to build a relationship with these people too. You'll see it is a vital part of developing your relationship with your partner. In return, you'll be excited and proud to introduce them to your best friend. So if the person it is that you think is in love with you has no interest whatsoever in introducing you to who their main people are, their circle, their V formation, their peeps, their family, I don't know if they really love you. I just can't answer that question. If they're unable or nor willing to bring you around anybody and they just want to keep you in the dark in terms of your relationship, you might want to think that is maybe not love, but you got to figure it out. And that's what we're going over here. It's like, what's the difference? In return, you'll be excited too if they were trying to introduce you and you both were in love, them to your best friends and family, and anxious for them to adore your new partner so you could show them off almost as much as you do too. Number five is they're not perfect. Let me say that again. Number five is they're not perfect. In our rational minds, we know that no one is perfect, but we can easily lose sight of that when we're blinded by hormones and desire. When you're lusting after someone, you have an idealized picture of them and you don't see them for who they really are, their warts and all. We all tend to present an idealized version of ourselves anyway, especially in the beginning when a relationship is first starting to bud. You don't really get under someone's skin unless you put in the time. As you get to know someone, they let their guard down and start to show their true colors. It's only then that you want to get to know them for who they really are. That can either put an end to a blossoming relationship, meaning it never makes it past the lust stage, or that it grows and morphs into real love. Now, if you find someone and if you find love, you're conscious of their flaws and love them in spite of their negatives, their flaws, their family. If you still love someone, that's real love. When you have met their family and they are the worst and you can't stand them. Damn, they can't stand you either. But you stick in that, that's beyond the lust deal. Because now you're willing to deal with anything to be with that person. Because the physical alone won't be enough to keep that deal charged. And that's just some hashtag real talk. Number 6 here is it takes time. I hate to break it to you, especially the romantics out there. But love at first sight doesn't exist. Yet I will still say, when I first saw my wife standing there, man, she was a sight. And of course, we had to develop a lot of things in terms of understanding each other, knowing each other, our love language, all of these things. But does it really happen? I'm not sure. It did for me. At least it caught my eye. Of course, you can experience lust at first sight, though. You can experience a strong attraction at first sight that feels like a lightning bolt with fireworks. Boom, bang, boogie to the boogity, bang, bang, going off in your head when they kiss you. This can easily be confused with love, especially if the relationship does go on and to develop. Love in its true form, however, just isn't something that can appear instantly. Like love just don't work like that. In order to love someone, you have to spend quality time with them and then truly get to know them. It's all a science is number 7. The different ways that we behave when we're experiencing desire and love are the result of what's going on under the surface in our complex brains. Here it is. A recent study tried to get to the bottom of what happens in the brain when we experience sexual desire and love. It showed that although they are very much linked, they activate different areas of the part of the brain as the striatum. The area linked to the desire is lit up by things we gain instant pleasure from, like food and sex. Love, however, is linked to another area that is involved in the conditioning process, through which we begin to attach value to the things that we associate with pleasure or reward. If sexual desire are rewarded with pleasurable feelings consistently, love can develop. That's why you can't fall in love instantly. As you go through the process of moving from lust to love, our feelings move from in one area of the striatum to another. Turns out, on a basic level, and without wanting to sound too depressingly unromantic, even though I'm a romance guy, I'm in love, I'm about love, and I'm a lover, not a fighter. Love is essentially a habit that we develop when other sexual desires are rewarded. The same part of the brain is associated with the drug addiction. Anyone who's ever been bit crazy in love will understand that. That's what we're talking about, baby, here on your professional and personal radio station, the Coach V Show on Island Block Radio. We're talking love. We just talked about lust and the difference between, and hopefully that can stir your heart, mind, and soul so that you can figure out what you need to about love, lust, marriage, relationships, etc., etc., etc. More on love and lust right here on the Coach V Show. Stay tuned. We're going to play some jams and come right back right here on Island Block Radio, the pulse of the Pacific where paradise lives.
Keep her outside Jacareza. It's another lesson too for the lovers working all around the world. Sing for the big brother.
I didn't think love would find me, maybe cause I thought I wouldn't need it. All hope was taken from me, I believed I was better off without it. Then along she came, this pretty little thing with a smile that lit up my life. And little did I know that things were gonna change, and this wasn't something I could fight. She changed the way I thought before, cause of her my heart is open, though. See that give me the moment I would ever feel like this. So, cause I've never given all of me someone the way I act like this, yeah. And I'll never be the same, and it almost feels strange, it's crazy. She's all I've ever wanted. Just the way she calls my name, yeah, brightens up my day. Baby girl knows that I love it. She changed the way I thought before. Cause of her, my heart is open door. See, that girl be the only one, no need for another. My search is done, I'm wasting time. Cause I know I got the way. She make me hot, go hot, go. Cause I know she's my Mrs. Right. She make me hot, go hot, go. I waited all my life, but she's on time. She make me hot, go hot, go. Yup, she's the one I'm gonna make my life. She make me hot, go hot, go. She make me hot, go. She make me hot, go. She make me hot sing. She make me hot sing like oh na na, oh na na. She make me hot sing. She make me hot sing like oh na na, oh na na. Girl, it's all your fault why I'm feeling like this. I just can't control the way my heart is beating. It's hopeless. Cause the more I try, the harder it gets. Baby girl, only time can stop it.
Oh, baby girl, no more talk, let's go. Couple up, bubble up, y'all and flow. You know, all them prince in divas in the ghetto, them I know they even one rocket. Drum is a ruler, vivid like rubber bum bum. Rub it up a rubber, that body rubber bum bum. She giving it 5-star loving, sweet like sugar. She more than a feeling.
She make me hot, go hot.
Every time, every time.
Cause I know she's my Mrs. Right. She make me hot, go
She make my heart go.
I waited all my life, but she's on time. She make me hot, go hot.
She the only
Yeah,
one.
she's the one I'm gonna make my life. She make me hot, no, she make me hot, go. She make me hot, go. She make me hot, go. Cause I know she's my Mrs. Right. She make me hot, go. I waited all my life, but she's on time. She make me hot, go. Yep, she's the one I'm gonna make my life. She make me hot, go. She make me hot, go. She make me hot, go.
Coach Viliami Tuivai. Coach V. Coach V Show.
Welcome back to the Coach V Show. We're talking love and marriage now in the next two segments. Per PewResearch.org, in my research and my study and my reading that I have done throughout the week to be prepared for you, the Island Block Radio family, right here on your personal professional radio development show, the Coach V Show. We're talking about love and marriage. And the landscape of relationships in America has shifted. I mean, dramatically in recent decades. From cohabitation to same-sex marriage to interracial and interethnic marriage, here are 8 facts about love and marriage over these next two segments in the United States. Half of Americans ages 18 or older were married in 2017, a share that has remained relatively stable in recent years, but is down 8 percentage points since 1990. One factor driving this change is that Americans are staying single longer. The median age at first marriage has reached at its highest point 30 years for men and 28 years old for women in 2018, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Let's take some real hard facts and really talk about this now. As the U.S. marriage rate has declined, divorce rates have increased among older Americans. In 2015, for every 1,000 married adults aged 50 and older, 10 had divorced. For every 1,000, up from 5 in 1990. Among those ages 65 and older, the divorce rate roughly tripled in 1990. Here's number 2. Love tops the list of Americans' reasons to marry. About 9 in 10 Americans, 88%, and we're talking about facts here, that comes strictly from the census and what it is that this Pew Research has taken its data. I wanted to bring some real hard facts, just not like my experience or what my opinion is. These are some numbers and facts, at least in a roundabout way, that we can really gauge what is going on in the landscape of love, marriage, lust, relationships, and Valentines, and how we approach that as we come up to Valentine's and it being Love Month. About 9 in 10 Americans cited love as a very important reason to get married. ahead of making lifelong commitment and companionship, which was 81% and 76%. According to a 2013, so about 7-year-old Pew Research Center survey, fewer said having their relationships recognized in a religious ceremony, which was 30%, financial stability, which was 28%, or legal rights and benefits, 23%, were very important reasons to marry. However, being a good financial provider was seen as particularly important for men to be a good husband or partner, like the breadwinner. According to a 2017 study about 2.5 years old, surveyed by the center, about 7 in 10, 71%, said it was very important for a man to be able to support a family financially to be a good husband or partner, while just 32% said the same for women to be a good wife or partner. These are like men perceptions, gender roles, etc. As far as what helps people stay married, married adults said that in a 2015 study about 5 years ago that having shared interests, 64%. They needed to have shared interests, and satisfying sexual relationships was 61%. Were very important to have a successful marriage. More than half, 56%, also named sharing household chores was very important to staying married. Here's number 3 now in this comparison, in this study that I love and brings some hard data into really thinking about and bring to the forefront of our mind how to stay married, how to be married, and how to be in a loving marriage, a loving relationship in a marriage. And then also maybe to spark some communication where if things are not going right between you and your spouse, you and your partner, you and the other in your life that you deeply love, or at least you say you love him or her, is that here are maybe some things that you need to hash out and talk about. Do you need to share the chores? Do you need to make more money? Is this satisfying in the bedroom or not? I mean, you got to have those conversations and either be willing to fix it or do what a lot of people do is just freaking, this doesn't work, let's divorce. What is your gist? That's on you. The number of the U.S. adults cohabitating with a partner is on the rise. In addition to half of the U.S. adults who were married, 7% were cohabitating in 2016. The number of Americans living with unmarried partners reached about 18 million with an M in 2016, up 29% from 2007. So that was about 9 years earlier. Roughly half cohabitors are younger than 35, but cohabitation is rising most quickly amongst Americans ages 50 and older. Large majorities of Generation Zers, Millennials, Generation Xers, and Baby Boomers say couples living together without being married doesn't make a difference for our society, according to the 2019 Pew Research Center report. While 54% of those in the silent generation say cohabitation doesn't make a difference in society, at least that's what they think. About 4 in 10, 41%, say it's a bad thing, compared with the much smaller shares amongst younger generations. Number 4, remarriage is on the rise. So in 2013, 23% of the married couples had been married before. So that's 23% were getting married again. Compared with this, 13% in 1960 were remarrying after being divorced. 4 in 10 marriages in 2013 included a spouse who said, I do, at least once before. And in 20% of the new marriages, both spouses had been married at least once before. Remarriage is more common among men than women. Among previously married men, those who were ever divorced or widowed, 64% took a second walk down the aisle, compared to only 52% of previously married women, according to the Pew Research Center and analysis of the 2013 Census Bureau data. One possible reason for this disparity is that women are less interested than men in remarrying. Among previously married women, 54% said in 2014 Pew Research Center survey that they did not want to marry again, compared with 30% of men. Now, what about this? Number 5. 1 in 6 newlyweds were married to someone of a different race or ethnicity in 2015. This reflects a steady increase of intermarriage since the 60s. when just 3% of newlyweds were intermarried, according to a 2017 Pew Research Center analysis. While Asians, 29%, and Hispanic, 27% newlyweds, are most likely to intermarry in the U.S., the most dramatic increase of intermarriage have occurred amongst black newlyweds. 18% of whom married someone of a different race or ethnicity are up 5% in 1980. About 1 in 10 white newlyweds, 11%, are married to someone of a different race or ethnicity. Among both Gen Zers and millennials, 53% say people of a different race marrying each other is a good thing. 53% of these Gen Zers and millennials for our society, compared with 41% of Generation Xers, 30% of baby boomers, and 20% in the silent generation, according to the center's 2019 report. Support for legalization of same-sex marriage has grown in the past 10 years. In 2007, Americans opposed legalizing same-sex marriage by the margin of 54 to 37%. In 2017, that increased 8% to 62% now in 2017, so a decade later than opposed to 32%. So it decreased by 5% and 7% increase, allowing gays and lesbians to marry legally. Surveys conducted by the Gallup found that about 1 in 10 LGBT Americans were married to same-sex spouses in 2017. Now, a majority of 61% of all same-sex couples who live together are married. Now, number 7 was millennials and Generation Zers have been at the vanguard in the changing views of same-sex marriage. About half of Gen Zers and millennials say that gay and lesbian couples being allowed to marry is a good thing for our society, while 33% of Gen Xers, 27% of boomers, and 18% of the silent say the same, according to the 2019 report. Now, number 8 says sizable minorities of married people are members of different religious groups than their partner, but marriages and partnerships across political party lines are relatively rare. About 4 in 10 Americans who have married since 2010 have a spouse who is in a different religious group. Now, listen to this, because this is very interesting to me. I mean, those that cohabitate, I think all these things are very, very interesting in terms of what the percentages and what the data says about love, about marriage, about the acceptance of marriage and who wants to marry in what way. But this one is really intriguing to me is because once you've been raised in a certain faith and belief, and then now you can marry someone where now love conquers that religious belief, and also more accepting of other people, what they want to do. I think all of that is just intriguing to me because, I mean, things change. And it says about 4 in 10 Americans who have married since 2010 have a spouse in a different religious group compared to only 19% in the 60s. That's big time. So after 50 years, there's an increase of over 20% of people that will marry outside their faith or religious group. And this is all according to a 2014 Pew Research Center study. Many of these interfaith marriages are between Christians and those who are religiously unaffiliated. When it comes to politics, though, a 2016 Research Center found that 77% of both Republicans and Democrats who are married or living with a partner said their spouse or partner was in the same party. We're talking some stats about love. We're talking lust. We're talking about what are some of the percentages and what's the makeup of what makes people marry today. Like, what is that? And does it even matter? I think it does. I think because of the fact that everything we do as people has to do with interactions and relationships. And so if we know what's going on, we can then buffer and then also edit how we approach life. Take it as it is and then approach it in a way that's respectful and honorable to all. I mean, that's some love and some love talk. Maybe hope talk for maybe just this Hollywood radio show host, but nonetheless, that's what it is that I feel. that we can really expand and find out what love is for you, be more accepting of everyone and anything it is that they want to do. Never, though, saying that it should infringe upon any rights of anybody else who wants to do anything the way they want to do it. You're listening to The Coach V Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back after this brief music break as we're talking about love, Valentine's, lust, marriage, and all of that. Keep it locked. We'll be right back after this music break.
Woman, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. Woman, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. Hey, darling, how you doing? Hope you're doing fine. I just wanna know what's on your mind. And if you find it in your heart to give me that one chance, I'm trying to show you more than romance. 'Cause darling, I've been waiting for your love, sitting so patient, waiting for your love to come and conquer my soul, baby. Oh, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. Woman, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. It's a feeling that you get when you're kissing for the first time. It's like opening your eyes to a sunrise, like getting every answer right the first time. You know your boy lucky as hell because I'm her type. The type of man that she needs, a pretty fine thing, be priority, yeah. And I'ma hold it down, no questions. You ain't even really gotta mention my loyalty, it's royalty. Trust and believe you're getting spoiled, B. 'Cause if it's love she believes, then it's all she receives. Oh, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. Oh, yeah. Woman, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby.
Come and say, come and I love it when you put your sexy body on me. Don't even have to touch me, tickle up me fancy. This melody line, it's so sweet like a strawberry. You make me perform like a cow in all the shit. Girl, only you alone have that effect on me. The two of we together like PB and jelly. The perfect combination for some sexuality. And the bed it how we bird giving me sensual energy. She have me saying, cut me hard like a rocker. How to give it to you non-stop. Got the neighbors calling, the cops them say they miss some murderation, but I no hear no gunshot. Girl, I make you moan and scream, and I make it pour out cream. May have she line swollen thing, be you be on kaipo, we pump conquering.
Woman, you love it, don't you? Got me feeling flexible. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. Come on, pretty lady. Woman, you love it, don't you? Give it to me, baby. It's got me feeling like Mr. Incredible. I'm feeling that tingle right in between my toes, baby. It's like BB times. Come for rip it all damn night. Yeah.
You are now tuned in to the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Now here's your host, Coach V.
Welcome back to the Coach V Show, your personal and professional radio station on Island Block Radio. We're talking love and romance. We're talking love and lust. We're talking marriages and what the makeup and what the numbers and the data say according to this Pew Research it is that I looked over throughout the week. And what are the makeup of the people that are getting married, and what about romance and all of that? I mean, what about love? What is love? In my definition, taken strictly and directly from what is defined in the dictionary, is love is defined as an intense feeling of deep affection, a great interest and pleasure in something. And that's why we're talking about love, we're talking about Valentines, we're talking about marriage. And I just need to say this for all the people it is that's out there. I mean, people feel like there's no difference between cohabitating and that's okay in our society. Yeah, cool. Do what you got to do. I mean, nobody's going to do you. Make sure you understand what it is that you're trying to do and get done. But I also know this. I think single people think that it is hard to be single and find romance and love. But let me just tell you, it's just as hard as well when you're married and have a spouse, whether you cohabitate or don't cohabitate. If you only see each other outside of the apartment and just, you don't live together, but you find a way to get these things done. But man, it is struggle nonetheless, because life is struggle. Romance is struggle. Love is struggle. Struggle is life, but misery is optional. How you approach and deal with the mentality, the spirituality, and the emotions of a person, how do you figure that out? How do you respond to what it is that you don't want or don't like? That is what relationships are. And oftentimes I talk about it in the porcupine theory, which also applies, I feel like, to marriage. Where porcupines in the winter, they have to get together and be as close as they can and use their body heat and not be angered or frustrated by the little pricks, which is the petty stuff it is that we face in relationships, and be able to stay together and use each other's body warmth in this harsh climate that is life, which is a rough winter, and that if we don't do that, we die. Without the body heat and the relationships in life, where I'm always saying, there's money in the transaction, but the wealth is in the relationships. Are you kidding me? A value of love and to have someone that you can walk through this thing called life and share and encourage one another, be there for one another emotionally and also mentally in terms of this grind that is life. I think that is an important thing. And I also feel like of all of the decisions it is that I've ever made in my life, it is made that is a big thing, like that if you play sports or not in high school, if you have an art or do an extracurricular activity, that you study for the SATs, that you choose a college because it is so important. All of those things were really important in my life, but my choice in spouse has been the most important decision of my adult life. There is nothing that impacted my life or influenced my life, encouraged my life, motivated, inspired my life like my parents did before leaving my house. Because once I left the house and I went to college, I never went home. I haven't been home since. I left in like 2009 to walk on at UC Davis and try to get into school, being on academic probation the first time. That was in 2009. Oh, excuse me. That was 1999, right? That was 21 years ago, and I've never been home. But the person that I have been with since that time has been my wife, Martha Now. And you want to talk about having a life coach, a success coach, a nurturer, someone to really feel the intimacy that is the lust and the love and the romance. That has been amazing. But then also someone that you could build a family and a legacy with. Wow. And the message to that is, if that is your most important decision, is who it is that you choose in this romance, in this love game, in this Valentine's game. Just know that this love game, it don't play around now. It plays for keeps. Like, you're going to have to get cut if this thing doesn't work. It's going to bleed. You're going to get hurt, and you're going to need time to heal, because that's how love works. It has no reason because Coach V, that just came out of my mouth, or what it is that I'm saying, that it's true because Coach V says so on a Hollywood radio show from here in Hollywood to wherever it is that you are around the world. No, this is just some real motherfucking talk about life, love, lust, marriage, divorce, relationships that, man, Don't be casual in your relationships. One night or moments together in an intimate way can really bring some drama for a lifetime. You want to talk about getting married to the wrong person for a lifetime? And then finding out later in your 60s when you're with the wrong person? Man, that mother freaking sucks. So love and romance, right? Love and romance are sometimes used interchangeably since they are closely related in a particular context. However, love and romance are different from each other upon closer examination. Love is usually explained as an intense feeling or emotion of deep affection, attachment, and devotion. It is said that love is one of those unexplainable things that is best experienced rather than explained. But love is also characterized as a powerful attraction and a personal commitment to everything the other person is going through, every second, and sacrifice that everything it is that that person is going through, all of their family, all of the bad habits, all of the curses, and all of the good things too, and all of the transformation and the change and the process and the progress and the betterment and the achievement and going forward despite all of that. Man, that is what love is characterized as. And this attachment results in a very powerful connection and a bond between two entities. Love can exist in many different forms and manifested in many ways. Forms of love include non-romantic, unconditional, and romantic love, because we're talking about love on Love Month. We're talking about manifestations of love that can vary from simple to grand gestures. People often define or manifest love in many ways, like security, companionship, devotion, affection, attraction, faith, loyalty, or commitment. In contrast to that, romance is referred to as the actions or gestures in the context of a relationship. These gestures are done and seen as an outward expression of feelings of a person towards another. It is also seen as a tool to prolong and reinforce both the relationship and the bond between two individuals. Romance also develops the romantic love into a potential couple and reinforces the connection. Romantic gestures are often just specific, even though there are many: giving flowers, dining in an intimate setting, place, expressions of concern and hospitality are just a few examples and gestures that are associated from love. Aside from being a gesture, though, romance is also applied to the feeling of a thrill, excitement, and exhilaration. The idea of romance developed from the idea of chivalry, which was prevalent in the medieval times, but romance as an initiator of a relationship is not static. It can end two completely different ways. One end game is that both individuals fall in love with each other, while romance can also lead to the end of a romantic relationship with the option of a friendship. Both romance and love can be combined, though. Although it is possible for one entity to be present without the other, when two are present in a relationship, both entities are equally important. And the endurance of that relationship is important. Romance can be a method of initiating the relationship, where love, the romantic kind, can be the end result. The constant presence of love and romance can lead to a very fulfilling experience for every and all individual. We're talking about love. We're going to talk about it next week and the week after as well. And that's what we're talking about, Love Month. And in saying that, know this: romantic lust or whatever, and be kind to one another, be good to one another, love one another, say that you love the other person, say that you love your family. I mean, there's so many. We're talking about romance today and lust today because Valentine's is right around the corner. And it's in this week coming up, February 14th. We're going to celebrate Valentine's Day. But also the love that you love your family. There's so many different forms of love, but make sure that it is expressed. Tell your mama now, tell your daddy, tell auntie, uncle, make sure your kids let your spouse know that you love them. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach V Show. Tune in every Mana Motivation Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise on Island Block Radio, the pulse of the Pacific, where paradise lives. Paradise lives. Paradise lives.